Well, joining us in the studio is the CEO, Food Click, Bola Joko Fadikpe. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
I wonder how you greet on a day like this. Happy World Food Day?
Yes, Happy World Food Day.
Okay, is there enough reason for us really to be celebrating World Food Day? Future of Migration, Invest in Food Security and Rural Development. How apt is this year's theme?
Yes, there is a reason for us to celebrate World Food Day because the essence of World Food Day is to raise awareness about hunger and to also celebrate progress that have been made. In the last 1 year, a lot of progress has been made in the fight against hunger. The theme of this year is change the future of migration, invest in food security and rural development. The essence of the theme of this year is migration is the major problem to ensuring food security. Conflict, hunger, climate change is chasing people away from their community. So while these people are being chased away from their community, the already community they are going to where they are also experiencing hunger, that would increase the number of hungry people. 1% increase in poverty will lead to over 3% increase in migration. I'm living in the northeastern part of Nigeria. The conflict currently going on, that means I will be living there because of poverty, and automatically that would affect the country.
All right, but do you think that this year's theme, captures the ingrained nature of the challenge of hunger that we have on our hands?
Yes, to be honest with you, I believe it captured it. Because if we look all over the world, World Food Day is a global event. Not Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, every country you think of now, there's one conflict or the other. And children and the elderly are the most vulnerable when it comes to this. So if conflict can be reduced in a particular country, that means there can be food security. That means there can be food security in the country. So the theme of this year is the World Thought About theme, which was accepted by the Food and Agricultural Organization. Even today, Pope Francis would also be addressing mayors from different parts of the country, telling them on the reason why they have to invest in food security. You have to invest in agriculture. You have to invest in power supply. Sometimes it's not as if the world does not produces enough food to eat. We produce more than enough food that can go around the world. But sometimes it's just the access of getting to this food. From the farm to the table, one, bad road is a problem. Power supply to preserve this food is a problem. While also living, you might meet militant on the road, you might meet anybody who would also attack
That,
you.
of course, is in the case of Nigeria. Like Pope Francis said recently that the major cause of food shortage is not just climate change, but selfishness and inequitable distribution of food, selfishness on the part of those who have, towards those who don't have. So that seems to be the fundamental problem when it comes to food. Now, take Nigeria, for example. Does a country like Nigeria, with its arable land and all of that, have any business being hungry at all?
We have no business being hungry. Last year, Senator Theodore Orji sponsored the Freedom from Hunger Bill. So the essence of the Freedom from Hunger Bill is to ensure food security. Among the recommendations when we went to the National Assembly was that food waste is the major problem. Food waste is the major problem in Nigeria. Every weekend you see a lot of people having parties, wasting food. But sometimes this is not even compared to the industrial food, which major retail. We have a lot of retail companies in Nigeria now. But sometimes food nearing the expiry date, because they don't want to sell it because of NAFDAC and all other things, they throw this food away. When they throw this food away, this food decomposes to release carbon monoxide, which also damages the ozone layer. So you can see food waste has a lot of things to do with climate change. So part of the recommendation then was that food waste should be treated as a major disaster in Nigeria, and hunger should be seen as a threat to humanity. We don't talk about hunger in Nigeria because we always have this feeling that Nigerians are not hungry. We don't want to be honest with ourselves. But according to the statistics released by Food and Agricultural Organization, over 25,000 people die from hunger-related causes every day. That is more like saying...
Every day where?
Every day all around the world.
Globally?
Yes, okay. Globally. So that's roughly about 1,000 plane crash happening every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Now, but it does appear that this year's theme is tailored, towards Africa. It's like this is a message to the African countries, because 90% of the migration and the problem that we're having around the world, it's coming from the African countries. Yes. Isn't it so?
Yes, it is, because everywhere you go, from the northeast to Egypt, everywhere where conflicts are happening, most migration is. So that is why FAO is trying to address African leaders. African leaders, stop migration. And how can you stop migration? You have to invest in rural development. That means I won't have a reason leaving my town in Ile-Ife if there's social protection there, if there's power supply there, if there's farming opportunities there. So if you don't invest in rural development, you can't ensure food security. And if there's no food security, there has to be migration. I have to live where I am to look for what I want to eat. Migration should be a thing of choice. I want to relocate to United States.
Not forced.
Yes, I shouldn't be forced to leave my community to look for food.
Okay, now speaking of the Nigerian situation, most people in the urban areas, of course, rely on the rural area for food. That's the reality of our lives, right now. What do you think, building policy, housing policy can do to actually encourage farming? We've had a guest on this show once who encouraged family farming, that if each family had a garden in the back of their houses or their homes, you can imagine if everybody actually had a garden, we wouldn't be talking about hunger, would we? Yes,
we wouldn't be talking about hunger. So that's why I think I'm in support of what the person said. There has to be family farming. Also, fertilizer should be provided for farmers, especially those in the rural areas. Soft loan should be given to farmers. If you want to go into agriculture, soft loans should be given to you. So government on its own part needs to encourage farming, especially among youths. Youths don't want to go into farming because there's no enabling environment. All
right. Do you think, migration, the bottom of it all is to, for food security, to ensure food security is to, the reason for this year's theme is to ensure that migration is, reduced. But do you think, even though that it is a challenge, do you think that there is a way that host communities can harness the developmental potentiality of, migration? You think there's a way that can be done?
Yes.
Even though it's a challenge.
Yes, it's a major challenge, because sometimes where these people are also migrating to, they have their own personal problem. So until there is security, there's peace all around the world. Without peace, it will be difficult to have food security.
And in the midst of all of that, for Nigeria, you wonder how seriously we're really taking food and agriculture and all of that. The 2017 budget is somewhere around 76 billion naira. I wonder if that's even a drop in the ocean. Is it really enough to, as a catalyst, to help, change the narrative as far as agriculture is concerned? Of course, by extension, food for every Nigerian.
Yes, government should. I don't have the figure which was allocated to agriculture, but I think government should do more. We should drop some things to ensure food security, to feed some people. There are some projects we don't need to do. Instead of doing that, why don't you invest it in agriculture? Why don't we invest it in children? When there is hunger when there's hunger in a particular community, you can't get the best of teachers. You can't get the best of staff in that. That means somebody living in a particular community where they're experiencing hunger, where government is not investing so much, they can't get the best of teachers. So that means you shouldn't expect anything good from them in future. So government should put in more into food security, into agriculture, and the bill, it will be of great idea if the bill sponsored by Senator Chiodeoji, which the Senate has signed, if the federal government can also work on this.
All right, now, just before we round up very quickly, this is a chance for countries like Nigeria to really drive their diversification policy Do you think that we are seeing the sort of aggressive move to address this problem of food insecurity like we saw in the past administration under additional?
Yes. Well, to be honest, there's still a long way to go. I think there's even a Ministry of Sustainable Development Goal, which is SDGs. Mr. Additional really tried, so I'm expecting the present person to also do more and see how the government needs to do more. That is just the essence of it. There's a SDG ended in 2015. Well, that was the Millennium Development Goal. When the Millennium Development Goal was ending, that was when Nigeria was just starting. Now there's the Sustainable Development Goal, which will end in 2030, which means zero hunger by 2030. We are not doing much. So we need to do more. We shouldn't be starting late. A lot of countries like Brazil, especially Brazil did a lot to ensure zero hunger, which they are out of zero hunger. So Nigeria, right, if we can follow the blueprint of Brazil, I believe come in few years' time, there will be no hunger. I believe
of course,
hunger can be
succinctly
ended.
put, hunger plus anger plus agitations. That's hunger is really at the root of all the agitations that you find everywhere. Bolajoko Fadikwe, founder Food Click Support Initiative. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're
and
welcome.
Wish you the very best on World Food Day, and we hope Nigeria will no longer have any business talking about hunger.